1811 4000। यही कंज्यूमर हेल्पलाइन।
Back with the news here on Headlines today. If the recent fuel hike was not enough, prices of essential commodities like vegetables and fruits are going through the roof. The Aam Aadmi is forced to pay through his nose, believe it or not, but you're actually paying a whopping 300% extra to put those veggies on your table. The underlying reason is the middlemen retailers nexus. As vegetables travel from the farm to your dining table, rates get hiked by 300%. Middlemen make merry, pocketing their commission. The number of intermediaries involved is directly linked to the size of the hole they leave in your pocket. We break down the brazen loot. This is how the humble tomato that gets a farmer a mere 25 rupees in UP's Garmukteshwar changes hands. And at each step, the cost increases. Middlemen make hefty commissions, sometimes both ways. Now you know why tomatoes cost you between 60 to 70 rupees per kg. The same is the case for the bottle gourd that is sold by farmers for less than 20 rupees, but middlemen retailer nexus jacks up the cost to 40 to 45 rupees per kilogram. You're paying more than double. Pulses are racing too. Lentil prices have gone up by as much as 10 rupees per kg in the last 2 weeks, be it Bengal gram, green gram or red kidney beans as well. Intermediaries use factors like bad climate and bad crops to trigger the rates shoot up, leave alone the diesel hike. Just the anticipation of a hike leads to hoarding, and then naturally prices are pushed further north. Professor Sriram Khanna is managing editor of Consumer Voice. He's a leading expert and commentator on price rise and commodity issues and its effect on the Indian consumer. Professor Khanna, welcome and thank you for speaking to Headlines today. Is this the most pernicious, Professor Khanna, the most dangerous levels to which a nexus between middlemen and retailers has actually affected the Aam Aadmi, considering that I'm sure this kind of nexus has been there for years and years together?
Well, let me tell you that this is not a surprise. Everything a consumer buys comes to him at the point of retail through a chain, a distribution chain. And it starts from the producer, in this case the farmer, who brings his stuff from the farmland to the wholesale mandi. For example, in Delhi, he either brings it to Azadpur or the Okhla mandi, and in bulk. And that is where the goods get sold. And you know, the buying is done in a very secretive fashion. The price bid by the buyers is not shown. It's covered. You know, the hands are moved and it's covered. So the poor farmer is ripped off there, and then whoever buys the stuff breaks bulk, and the retailers in different parts of Delhi come and buy the stuff, and they transport it to their market, and that's where we get it. So whenever there is any reason to disrupt the supply, whether by monsoon or by floods or by increase in transportation costs or any other God-made or man-made reason, at the first opportunity, the wholesaler bids up the price, then the retailer has to pay more, and because he has to pay more, he wants to charge more. So ultimately, the consumer gets the short end of the stick.
300%, Professor Khanna, 300% is the average hike that we're talking about across, you know, the most basic of vegetables, bottle gourds, tomatoes, dal, things like that. Does this mean, Professor Khanna, that you know, as we get desensitized, as it were, to these price hikes, and, you know, the Aam Aadmi is shocked, but then they get used to it because they don't have a choice, these are essential commodities, that things could become even more expensive?
It is the degree of competition in a particular market that determines if prices will be competitive or not. And prices can be very competitive if competition is high. But because the buyers are many, the sellers are many, the retailers are many, the wholesalers are many, the farmers are many, there is information asymmetry. All this adds to confusion, and in that confusion, both the wholesaler and the retailer make, win, and the consumer and the farmer loses.
Could it get worse, Professor Khanna? Could things become even more expensive?
If I were you, I would tighten my belts today, and I would keep it tightened all the way from the Shraddh period to the Navratras, from Dussehra to Diwali. you can see the end of the tunnel only after Diwali. And this is not for, I'm telling you for this year, for 2012, this is what happened last year, this is what happened the year before that, and this is what happened the year before that. So, and this year is a special reason. The monsoons have actually played havoc.
Yeah.
Tomato prices have gone from 20 rupees to 60 rupees in Delhi per kilogram, mainly because of the late monsoon. The areas where, the tomato crop was to become ripe and matured for sale and harvesting, that missed the bus because of lack of rains, and that caused a shortage and gave the wholesalers a reason to jack up the price and the retailers a good reason to jack up the price. So if I were you, I would not buy tomato in the mandi. I would go and buy tomato puree dabbas, which probably will, the canned tomato puree, which price of which is already marked. They're already there in the market. And that's a price which cannot be changed by the retailer.
Very, very ominous advice from you, Professor Khanna, saying tighten your belts, at least until after the Diwali season. No, that's good advice, I'm sure. But, we get a lot of calls, Professor Khanna here on Headlines today, from people saying, people from, in cities, households, people who are working and things like that, they can perhaps, stretch their budgets a bit. If they really want to get vegetables, they can stretch their monthly budgets. But what about people who live on really, really end-to-end monthly budgets for essential commodities? What do they do?
This is a tough call for them. The only advice I have is, don't wait for any politician to tell you that he's going to bring the prices down. Because these prices and supply and demand forces in the food sector are beyond politicians. They depend on millions of farmers and their agrarian practices. They depend on the timeliness of the rainfall, the adequacy of the rainfall, and the demand from millions of households. And let me tell you, no government of the center or the state can turn that around in a short period of 2 or 3 months. So don't wait for the government to do anything. Tighten your belt, change your consumption habits, buy less. You are making 3 sabzis, make 2. You're doing two dals, make 1. And economize, because that's the only way you're going to have your ends meet. And save.
All right. That's very, very practical advice. Yes, practical advice, economize. If you're making 3 vegetables at home, actually make 2. Professor Khanna of Consumer Voice actually saying that this is the only way that families can survive. Yeah.
Egg curry at home, it might be better than a vegetable curry. Cheaper.
Absolutely.
And more nutritious.
Professor Khanna, you've been, tracking these trends for so many years. You're the editor of Consumer Voice. Tell me something. Is this among the worst years you've seen ever as far as of essential commodities are concerned?
This is not among the worst years. I mean, there have been much worse years where inflation has gone to 17, 18%, in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Let me tell you, today we are much better off. And if the government was smart, it was immediately, wherever there was a shortage, it could immediately start imports from neighboring countries like Pakistan. And I don't see the government being smart in that, because really fruits and vegetables is basically a state subject. And imports are really controlled by the central government. And let me tell you, with the political parties fighting with each other, trying to pull each other's dhotis and lungis, they are not in a position to come to a consensus on economic issues, on reform issues. So I don't expect that the political leadership of the country can fix this problem. They can fix it if there was a political consensus on how to contain price rise by market intervention operations, by supply control measures, by demand control measures, and so on and so forth. But there's none coming around. And we have seen in the Lokpal bill and several other bills.
So that really is the message. Don't listen. Don't listen to your politician. Don't wait about wasting time listening to your MP or your MLA or your Neta. The fact is, the time is now. The danger is here. The prices are going through the roof. Economize, economize, economize. That's really all you can do. Professor Sriram Khanna, very valuable advice from you. Thanks very much for joining us this evening here.
For further details, you may also subscribe to Consumer Voice magazine. For subscription, contact 011 4733 1014 or mail us at subscription@consumer-voice.org.